me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc, where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
You know, the problem with a good city is no one wants to leave. Moving up through a city, I can tell you, I would not be where I am if I didn't get uncomfortable and have the ability to move to other cities to progress. One day he said, go look at the table. And there was a job posting for the city of Cedar Park for a foreman position. I chased it. And, I applied and did very well and was offered the job. That's really started, my career development through another city too. Get involved, and I made a lot of connections there, and I really want to push for the maintenance side. What I've been trying to do lately is get involved and try to help provide that experience level if there's a need.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show. Today, we're heading to the heart of East Texas, the beautiful city of Jacksonville, where parks, recreation, and public services are building stronger communities every day. Jacksonville is located in Cherokee County, Texas, with a proud population of over 14,000 residents. Nestled in an area of rolling hills between Tyler and Rusk, Jacksonville serves as the principal city of the Jacksonville Micropolitan Statistical Area, and it's brimming with hometown pride and community spirit. With U.S. Highway 69 and Highway 79 intersecting near the historic downtown, Jacksonville is more than just a pass-through. It's a destination full of life, green spaces, and opportunity. What's in store for today's episode? We'll take a closer look at some of the exciting projects shaping the community. Revitalization of Lincoln Park and Hazel Tilton Park, adventures at Lake Jacksonville and local campgrounds, year-round action with festivals, sports tournaments, corporate retreats, and team-building events. And the best part? We're sitting down with Devin Fredrickson, Director of Parks and Recreation in Jacksonville, Texas. Devin brings passion, perspective, and powerful leadership to the role, and he's giving us an inside look at how Jacksonville Parks and Recreation is creating impact and bringing people together. So whether you're a Parks and Rec pro, a community advocate, or someone who just loves seeing local leaders make a difference, this episode is for you. Let's dive in, right here on the Daily Parks and Recreation Show. All right, we are live again with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I'm your host, Craig LeBlanc, the Doorman. Special guest from Jacksonville, Texas, Devin Fredrickson, the director over there, leading the ship of Parks and Rec in his city, and has such a great story about how he kind of moved up in leadership and his childhood story all the way to fighting his way through without really having a college degree, and how he got into your CPRE, right? Is that
Yes.
you were able to attend that? Well, let's maybe go back to just, who are you as a kid? That way, because we're getting a lot of high school and college kids that are starting to pay attention to our shows, and I want them to kind of maybe see themselves when they see you. If you talk about who you were in high school, what you found, whether you did good in school or whether you did good in sports, and then kind of, your path into Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was a very traditional Parks and Rec kid. I started off, I had a single mom, and that was the most accessible way to get involved in the community, keep the kids going. So I played rec soccer, played rec basketball, and then really loved the kids camp, Camp Goodwater with the city of Georgetown. And I loved that. I played sports most of my life, basically every sport I could. Loved being outside, and I loved being a part of that. And moving, the older I got, the city rec center was like the place to go. And, I got to spend a lot of time with friends there, and we'd go to the parks, play pickup ball, play frisbee golf, all the traditional things you do in high school. And, that really led me into wanting to be involved in parks and recreation. You see a sign that pops up and says summer jobs, and you're like, wow,
Mm.
this looks awesome.
Well,
So,
I did want to pause a little on, you said you had a single mom, and so she had to go to work, and so you were more involved in the after school care.
I had my great grandmother and grandparents really help to make sure I got to
Mm,
go to those things. My mom was a teacher, so she, had the summers off when she wasn't, doing tutoring or working a side job. So it gave me the, that sort of, you could go 7 o'clock in the morning to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon kind of time frame.
mm.
And when she couldn't do it, even swim lessons, my great grandmother would take us.
That's nice. Everybody had to pull together to get you to all these programs, and so what was that like? I guess these are kinda your formative years, and you were exposed a lot to what goes on in Parks and Rec. How did that help kinda mold you, with your mom working, and this was, I guess, kinda how you were, raised and molded? What was that like?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you come from a single mom, or a household where your family is working, getting out to go to a kids camp or being involved in sports and things is really your way to make friends and get to know people. And I really got to have more structure in my life than I probably had at home.
Mhm.
So I really got to benefit from that and the programming.
Yeah. Okay, so then, now you're in high school, and so what does that look like? Because at what age is it common for Parks and Rec to offer some type of, whether it's a lifeguard or concession stand worker, what's common in your community and then, in your experience?
I would say around 15, 16, that, when I started working for the city of Georgetown as I started, it was so weird because I started as a last minute, hey, do you want to come be a referee for soccer? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I'll do it. And then I did 1 week. I thought it was great. And then the next week they called and said, hey, will you come back? And I was like, yeah. And I showed up and they're like, okay, you're in charge of all this now.
Ah,
You have the most knowledge out of it, and it just sort of developed from that. I don't know if it was leadership or convenience or whatever, but it just sort of blew up, and then I started refereeing basketball, and the same thing happened, and it was so
what
weird.
what were some of the things you were in charge of at that age? Like if another kid found himself in your shoes, what were some of the responsibilities?
Working for the city.
Well, when you first, came back for that second time and they said, "You're in charge," does that mean you kinda organized the kids or other referees, you kinda showed them the ropes if they were kinda your age, or
Well, it was basically you opened up the storage container and you set up all the goals. You got all the referees lined out and tried to make it all work. There's many of times where I would be running the full field when normally two referees do a full field soccer field, and I'd just be running back and forth doing it, and then jump on another one, and
Nice.
sort of just filling in. But I loved it. It made me really feel like I was needed.
Right, right. Okay, and then you said the same thing in basketball as well?
Yes, and it was very interesting because a lot of the guys that I played basketball with that were a couple years older, they were in college then. Occasionally they wouldn't show up, and it just sort of I got thrown into it. I had a really great supervisor there, Art Soto, and he sort of led that. And I think with my leadership in soccer, he just threw me into it. So I did that for multiple summers. Just well, multiple years, and then during the summer, most of the sports.
Mm, and so that was kind of your first, now, at what point did it become somewhat of a paid gig or anything like that?
Well, the city of Georgetown, they paid. It was sort of like a contract labor kind of thing.
Mhm.
they send out an email the day before, whoever could go showed up, and then you just turned in your hours.
Yeah. I remember I had a similar position. I had the Parks and Rec director would call me to work a wedding at the gym at the community center, and my job was to take out the trash. And I could sit there and watch TV and just take out the trash. But when I got and he paid me $10 an hour, and when I got that $40, I thought I was the richest guy on earth because I was like 15. But that's it's crazy when you get paid to do stuff like that
Yes, it
when you're
is.
first starting out. All right, so then let's keep going with the story.
So if you jump back a little bit to high school, I think it was sophomore year. I loved sports, but I participated in a program in my youth, and I mean early on. It was called PALS, Peer Assistant Leadership, and it basically is a program where high schoolers can help be a friend to a elementary school kid. And I got to participate in that through the school district, with I don't know if it was a single mom or just needed a friend, I'm not sure, but I got thrown into that. And it sort of became full circle because in high school, that was my favorite curriculum, that extracurricular activity that I got to be a part of.
Mhm.
And I think, a lot of people have those like filler classes, or they don't want to have class, so then they just have I forget what it is, like a bye period or whatever. I completely filled mine up because with PALS I wanted to be a part of that, and because I saw the effect of it. I still remember sitting on the playground talking to my pal, and really made an impact to me. So the full circle to that is I basically gave away all of my extra time where people would go off campus and stuff, and filled a vacancy where another pal wasn't able to take on another kid, and I did that. And funny enough, the teacher in charge of that, her name was Amy Barron, and she. I don't know where it all came to be, but she knew I was involved in the soccer and basketball. But she said, "Hey, are you interested in a job with the city outside of this?" And I said, "Yeah, I would love that." And she goes, "Well, my husband is the superintendent of parks for the city, and they're looking for people. You're not wanting to go to college right away. And, I think this would be a great fit for you." And that was how I got, my foot in the
Wow.
door.
Wow. So he was the superintendent, and what did that entail? Just kind of maintaining all the facilities, the grass crews, some of the skilled laborers kind of stuff?
Yeah, so the city of Georgetown, it's a really, really nice city. I got to start with a city that I still admire to this day, and I've
Mm,
taken a lot of the things I've learned. But the superintendent there, he was over basically all of park operations. So,
mm,
the traditional parks, and then recreation. Recreation encompasses, sports, the rec center, pool, stuff like that. He took over a lot of the park special events, the maintenance, the upkeep, all of that.
mm. And so that was your kind of now, what was your first position working with him?
Yeah, it was the Ballfields maintenance worker.
Okay. So you got to, is this just understanding how to maintain the fields, cutting the grass, uh, keeping them clean,
Yes.
and all the above?
Oh yeah, all the above. They had I think it was eight softball fields, or yeah, eight softball fields, multiple soccer fields, all of that. So it's the mowing, all the traditional applications. Then of course aeration, field maintenance, marking the fields. I spent plenty of time doing that,
Mhm.
prepping the fields, running all the tournaments, stuff like you know.
I'm gonna have to get you on my maintenance show, which is kicking off. I'm trying so hard to kick it off next week, but I think it's gonna take me one more week. I spent all morning organizing it. But this is literally the entire show. We're gonna do a 1-hour show before this show just on park maintenance. And people are gonna be shocked if you're not well versed in Parks and Rec, the sheer volume of manpower and expense and machine that it takes to maintain this real estate portfolio that these guys do. Um, and so how long did you stay in that position?
I I worked, I think, 2 years, and then my crew leader ended up leaving, and I was promoted to that position,
Mhm.
and I oversaw all the ball fields for around another 2 years. Um, and I loved it. I tell people I got very lucky. I wasn't having to just get thrown on a weed eater.
Mhm.
I know you've talked about that in previous shows.
Mhm.
Uh, if you've never been able to mow a baseball field or a soccer field with a real mower, you haven't mowed, because that
Mhm.
is like the most fun and aesthetically pleasing maintenance job, in my opinion, just because it's so beautiful. It looks literally like the baseball fields on, the MLB or anywhere you look. It's just, and it just makes it just all come together.
Yeah, yeah, and I tell you, it takes such skill to keep, a field looking like it does. I have an appreciation for it because you try to fight these little stickers or these little weeds or this little drought issues and this, holding water over here and drainage and irrigation. You just drive yourself mad, and you're like, you think it's just cutting the grass, but it's so much more, to keep these facilities, these fields, looking good. Um all right, so then you were kinda crew chief, and what was that like running? How many people did you have up underneath you, and, how many fields did you get to maintain?
It wasn't a small group. I think I had two people below me. At one time, it was just me and another guy.
Mhm,
Um, we had, ooh, I would say close to 16 fields. It's been a
mhm.
while.
Wow.
That would range from soccer, baseball, softball, all kinds. So,
Mhm. Okay, and so then what was your progression after that?
yeah, so I feel a lot of people's frustration in parks. You get in, especially without a degree, you have to work for it.
Mhm,
And I really put the time in. Ball fields is a make or break. Um, most of the guys I knew that were in college or out, having fun. We would finish up about, I don't know, 3, 4 in the afternoon, and then we'd have to be in at 11 p.m. at night after they finished games to prep the fields. So we'd finish about 2 in the morning or whatnot, and then for the tournament the next day. So a
mhm.
lot of times I was working these weird schedules, and I started to really develop a um, respect for what happens behind the scenes.
Mhm.
Because I was young, but it's very hard to wake up so early in the morning after you've already worked all full day and have to be very committed to not staying up, and the responsibility is there.
Right.
So I was really committed, and I went to my superintendent, and the problem with a good city is no one wants to leave.
Yeah.
And moving up through a city, I can tell you, I would not be where I am if I didn't get uncomfortable and have the ability to move to other cities to progress. But I told my superintendent I really want to move up, and every position was filled. The foreman position was filled. Superintendent, there wasn't anything. And so one day he said, "Go look at the table." And there was a job posting for the city of Cedar Park for a foreman position, and I chased it, and
Mm.
I applied and did very well, and was offered the job, and that's really started my career development through another city too.
Yeah. I love how you said, the I guess this can be a problem. The problem with a good city is no one wants to leave. A well-run city can be a great place to work, especially one that's making an impact if you love your community. And the leaders, I've seen it time and time again, will be like, "Yeah, I've been here for 25 years and and I'm gonna die here." Um, but like you said, if you're looking to really move up, there's and you're qualified, there's always cities looking for qualified leaders, but you just may have to move a few times as you kinda, take on higher and higher forms of leadership. Um, and so when you said you had to deal with being uncomfortable or stuff, let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, um, I talk about Georgetown a lot because I loved it there. But also too, it's hard to leave something that's a great environment. It's you have all the resources you need. Moving away from your hometown, it was just a transition. And even though Cedar Park was only, I think, 30 minutes away, I had to move towns, and you know, every city I've worked for besides Georgetown, I came in and, a lot of times when you bring in someone from the outside, it's not always received well.
Mhm.
My biggest issue, and I think a lot of people in Parks and Recreation deal with this, is that a lot of times you come in, even if you have the experience or the credentials, you're leading people that, could be older than you,
Mhm.
you know, feel like that age gap is an issue, and it's hard, and it's progressively gotten easier the older I've gotten, and then also the more experience I've received. As any kind of supervisor, you don't have to know everything, but you should know a little bit about everything your people do,
Mhm.
because that's the easiest way to earn your staff's respect, is to show them that you can do it and
Right.
that you know how. And Cedar Park was the hardest change that I had in my career, due to the fact that I knew Ballfields, but that was it. And so that transfer over, it was pretty difficult.
Mm. Yeah, and maybe we could talk a little bit about that. So, what kind of, I don't wanna call them coping mechanisms, but were there any tricks that you figured out how to lead people that were older, maybe even more experienced in some cases, especially if it's like, a craftsman or something? What kinda lessons did you have to learn?
You have to listen.
Mm,
I mean, the best advice I ever received was, listen and don't change things until 6 months, unless
yeah,
it's a safety thing. Don't change.
yeah,
Learn why people do it, because a lot of times I see different organizations. They start this reoccurring problem solving, where they do the exact same thing they tried multiple years before, and there's one variable they're not aware of that just doesn't work. And
mm,
after I've been at multiple cities, it's completely true. What worked at the first city I was at, does not work at the current city I'm at.
mm,
And I think that really helped understanding. I always say, like, I can't do my job without my staff. So it
right,
doesn't matter if I'm the super director, if my staff can't see that I depend on them, you won't get that extra bit of support when needed.
yeah,
My staff, when I got here, immediately, they start laying out all the events and stuff. And I said, all right, 4th of July, I'm going to work it with you. And it was sort of a shock, like, wait, what? And it's like, yeah, if you're having to work and give up your time, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter if I'm salaried. Hey,
mhm,
I want to be a part of that, because to me, to lead, you have to fully understand what you're leading, not just your people, but the community and other areas. And so, I feel like that's the best. And for anyone that's listening, if you're moving into any position, like, take the time. Even you're the manager, leader, director, whatever, you need to understand the environment and also understand your staff. And if you see them as individuals instead of your maintenance worker or your superintendent, your foreman, your electrician, or whatever, it brings a side of management that a lot of people don't talk about.
mm. Yeah, I love, and maybe if you can say more about that, you can't do your job without your staff. Um, was that a hard lesson learned? Was there some times you tried to do your job without your staff? What did that look like? And then, what does it look like when you really do, allow your staff to kinda, lead you because you're listening to their wisdom?
Well, I mean, you have to have that trust in your staff. I mean, with multiple areas of Parks and Recreation, I'm not just handling sports fields. You'll have, all of your general park maintenance, you'll have special events, you'll have downtown, you'll have all these different things going on. And if you can't depend on people to do their job, then you can't do yours. And, I try to let my staff know that I trust them to do it. And I don't micromanage. I teach. So, I'll go in and I'll say, hey, why'd you do it this way? Well, I'd recommend maybe trying this. If it doesn't work, then maybe we brainstorm, or can you explain why you think this would work better? And I feel like that really has helped me. But then also it allows my staff to know I respect what they do.
Hmm. I had a similar experience when I was running my companies where I had men that were master electricians and they were 20, 30 years older than me. They've been doing this field and here I am leading them. And sometimes I just felt silly. Um, and oftentimes they would come to me with a problem and I would just be, well, what are your thoughts on it? And they had the right answer. It almost like they were just looking for permission to do what they thought was right, and most of the time, the people that bring the problem to you already have the right answer in their head. If you're just like you said, listen to them and give them permission to, give their input, and then when they see you, go with their solution, and then, it's almost like there's this trust that's built when you do that over and over again. Yeah, similar experience in that?
Oh yeah. My superintendent I had at the city of Cedar Park, he really allowed me to grow by failure.
Mm.
He sort of sat back. He was this big dude, just
Ah,
he worked out a ton and was just awesome, but the biggest teddy bear. But he knew that I was learning and he allowed me to learn because he saw the potential that I felt like he saw the potential I had. And he loved my inventiveness and always trying to look for what we could do. And I'm not the flavor of the day. I always say that to my staff, but more of like just wanting to learn and I have this ability to look at a project and see everything, not just hey there's it needs more fall surfacing for like a playground, but I see hey there's that limb is moving in closer, we could add another trash can here. So I feel like it's almost like an ADD that has benefited me because I have the ability to see outside that. But with my superintendent, we would sit down and I remember special events. We just started and you create these work orders, and my work orders were just going because I was so about the detail oriented. And that's also back to what you mentioned about making sure you trust your staff because you have to delegate. You can't do everything.
right.
And that was a lesson I had to learn early on. Was I was still hourly, but I would continue if there was a call in, I would do it. And then I eventually learned like I need to empower my staff to do this because I can't always be there. And then that was at the point in time I learned about the benefit of investing in your staff and knowing that this isn't the end of the road. This
Mhm.
is, this isn't my last city to work for. This won't be theirs, but we need to invest in them.
Yeah.
And that really came came about.
Yeah, I had a business coach of mine, shout out to Miss Cami. She had one of her clients that was stressed about, training, his employees because he's like, "What if I sink all this money in these employees and then they leave me?" And her response was, I think she might have got it from a book or something. She said, "Well, what if you don't train them and they stay?" And so the punishment for not training your staff is you've got a lot of people that are just, not leveling up, and that puts a lot of strain on you, the leader. So when did that, what did that look like when you're investing in your staff and training them, um, in this, you were under maintenance still, correct?
Yes, at that point in time.
Mhm.
Well, I think back to Georgetown with my superintendent.
Mm.
His name was Jamie. He had to know that it was going to be harder with me leaving because the guy below me had not been there very long, and I had been there 2 years before I had taken over. But he knew I wanted to be more, and I still check in with him to this day. Um, and I always joke if Georgia had a position come up, I'd come back. Um, because I just love it there. But I really had to look at it, and I'm not quite sure where I heard it, but you know, the most satisfying thing, I think in a broad sense, most parks and rec departments and city government in general, people are worried about their job, and I think that fear. I don't always feel like that fear has been rational, but I need to know more than everyone else so I'm not replaceable.
Hmm.
And I try to live by a different philosophy. I like my staff I want to leave the city in better hands than when I got it, but also to be able to continue that momentum. Because, now working for smaller cities, if you lose the momentum, it can kill the department.
Hmm.
And working for larger cities, they're already pre-established. They have 20-year master plans that are most likely already funded, and there's not the same issues. But with smaller cities, you come in, if you don't have someone that can fill your vacancy when you leave, you immediately put them 3 years behind. Not just a year to hire and someone to get their feet on the ground. It's just it's a major blow,
Hmm.
and that's something I don't want. That's not the legacy I want to leave. I try to leave each city in a better standing and keep those relationships. I mean, the Parks and Rec society is strong. We like to help each other. We like to all see each other succeed. But me, I like to see the city and also my staff, because we're all human. I mean, we're working here not just because we love it, but also we need a job, and I want people to progress and have a better future. And anything I can do to help with that is what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you're concerned about leaving, a good legacy, that you're not leaving your city in a bind. And that's unfortunately a story I hear too often. I hear good directors say that, "I'm retiring in a month, and my replacement is not even here. I can't even pass the torch to them. They're probably gonna show up after I leave," and sometimes as an interim director for months and years even before that true replacement shows up, and it really does put the city behind. Can you speak a little bit more on that and why it's important to train your replacement?
Yeah, I mean, all the basic stuff, just them understanding the culture, the environment, um, being able to hand off. At my last city, I was extremely blessed. I saw someone go through sort of an expedited version of what I went through. I had a lifeguard. His name was Jonah Chang, and he was fantastic. And he did everything he needed to. He was in college, and he was always putting in the effort beyond and above. And we kept that relationship. I saw him become a pool manager, and then he graduated college, and I thought, this is it. He's moving on. He had a cybersecurity degree, and uh, he asked, "Hey, can I come on in maintenance?" And we went through all the steps and hiring. And I have the privilege to say the last city I left, he became the superintendent and then took on the director role. And I can't tell you how hard it was to leave,
Mhm.
but being able to see the career development, but also I think his passion for recreation stemmed from a little bit of, what I've learned in my management style, and with him, our relationship, because I just was bewildered. You get out of college, you have this degree, you can easily go make 3 times what you're making with the city,
Mhm.
and he stuck around, and now watching him, it solidified my feelings about investing in your staff.
Mhm.
Um, and he's now investing in his staff in the same way, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people get to actually see happen. I mean, occasionally cities have assistant directors that move into the director position, but really being able to see that sort of transition was awesome. And even then, I didn't give the traditional, heads up, hey, I got another job. I'm going to be leaving. I think I stayed almost 2 months because I was moving from South Texas to East Texas, about 5 hour drive. And with my family and everything, we wanted to make sure we took it slow and did it right. But even then, it put the department behind almost a year. So it's extremely crucial to have that communication, and then also make sure that the city as a whole knows how important that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that really is important. Now, bring us through all the different cities that you kind of what cities were you in? What'd you do in those cities? And then what was the next city? I'm curious.
Yeah, so City of Georgetown, Ballfields, City of Cedar Park. That one, I was a foreman of park operations for them. So that included ball fields, special events, a lot of park maintenance, small park projects. From there, I got it was super interesting. I got an opportunity to go to the city of Castroville, Texas, and it was a superintendent position. And basically, within a month, it was a director position because and this is very traditional of small cities. They have public works, and then public works eventually starts to needing to split off from parks, and that's the when I got brought in. And at that city, I I got thrown into the deep end like right off the bat. I had a pool, I had an RV park, I had all of your normal parks reservation stuff, um, and it was sink or swim. I had
Mm,
facilities. It was intense, and I really developed myself because I there was just so much I didn't know. So at Cedar Park, I got my CPSI and my restricted chemical license, applicator's license. And then when I went to Castroville, I was like, okay, there's a wide area of knowledge I don't have that I need to get.
mm,
And so I got my CPO, that's certified pool operator license, and my CP RP, so certified Parks and Rec professional.
mm,
And I would highly recommend anyone that is in the Parks and Rec field, especially if you're on parks or separate, you're on rec. The CPRP really helped me understand different parts of that.
mm,
Because in a small city, I was over programming, I was over reservations, I was over implementing technology, social media, like everything.
mm,
It's my wife would tell you I'm too involved, but it's important because, in my opinion, the reason I have stayed with smaller cities is you're making an impact that otherwise wouldn't have been made. Because there's not a lot of people that want to go and get paid half what they would at a larger city and do 3 times as much.
mm.
But you will never feel as impactful and important to a community if you don't get to experience that as a smaller city. Because, I mean, just gaining the trust, I've always been an outsider. And so it's sort of a double-edged sword. You have to earn the community and your staff's trust, but then also you don't have to follow this is how it's always been.
Mm, yeah. And so, so then let's talk about, where you are right now, the role you are as director. This is and how long have you been here?
I've been with this city over a year now.
Mhm. And so how is it different from, or is it very similar to a lot of the other cities you've been with?
Well, a large portion of my job as a director in my previous city really became project management.
Mm,
A lot of cities that are smaller, they can't, pay that 20% for engineering and all these things. And so, you can really cut a project out at the knees if you have to wait for that stuff to get funded. So I really developed that skill of project management, being able to look and know, and also having the experience from Cedar Park and Georgetown, what they've built. But with the transition to my current city, the you know I think it took me a lot of time to get momentum in Castroville. I hit the ground running when I hit Jacksonville, and the city manager is fantastic. And he told me there's a lot of stuff coming, and I want to make sure that with the separation of parks and recreation from public works, that this department gets the attention that it needs. And with your experience and know-how, I think you'd be great to lead that. Because I mean, let's just be honest. If you're a public works director, a mainline break is way more important than a call in about a reservation issue. So when I got here, it was basically drinking from a water hose. I had to start. I think we had talked about not doing any community programming for over a year, and within 4 months, we did swim lessons because the community needed that, and they were asking for it. And a part of our job in Parks and Recreation is to hear the community, and if a need is present that we can meet, you got to get them comfortable. You got to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that now I wanted you to go a little bit into this, and this is a cool part of his story that Devin has, as you didn't have a college degree and you were still pursuing your CPRE, correct?
Correct.
Within RPA, and maybe tell a little bit about that story, because I know we got a lot of other people in Parks and Rec community kind of are on a similar path and maybe get disheartened. But not you. You fought for it, and you got them to, I think, maybe change the rules for you. But let's get into that a little.
Well, I don't want to take all the credit, but yes, I mean, I have I basically have every certification that the National Park Association uh, can give. And when I got my CPRP, I was just absorbing everything, and I didn't have to study because a large issue that it seems like, at least my understanding, is there is a ton of recreation professionals, but the park side is the difficult issue.
Mm.
And to me, I was like, man, I've done this. Like, I understand it all already. So at one point in time, I was like, okay, I want to take this to the next level. Like, to be honest, I was applying for jobs, and the minimum qualification for a director was a degree. And I was like, well, I don't really want to go to school. I really hate being in a classroom. That's why I do what I do. I'm out and about. But I wanted to take it to another level. So I saw the CPRE, and it had classifications. You needed to have a degree. You had to be in Parks and Recreation and management for so many years. And I was just like, what the heck? I emailed their certification coordinator and said, hey, so I have double the required management experience. Can some of that lead towards, the qualifications so I could take the test? And, she came back and said, well, I'll take this up to our board, but probably not. And I would say it was about a year, almost 2 years. And then I believe I received an email and said, hey, new changes in our certification program. And they changed it. So you had to carry your CPRP for a certain amount of years, along with a director level or manager director level years of service or experience. And I qualified. So yeah.
I'm sorry. I think I might have lost you for back up like 10 seconds. I lost you at where you were telling how.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Okay. You're back.
Okay. So you lost me 10 seconds ago?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
you said they had changed the rules that said as long as you had held your CPRP for a certain length of time and you had held I think you were going to say director position, or what was it?
Manager or director level position for a certain period of time. I think it was
Mm,
like, if without a degree, I think it was almost 10 years
mm,
of management experience. Uh, and so then I qualified and was able to apply, and I got accepted. And then I had to move forward with the studying. And this was also the first time I ran into um, a test that was extremely hard.
mm,
It's not, it basically, I mean, it's the executive level. So you have to understand everything from your budget to understand CIP requests to management to recreation to programming, like everything. And yeah, I can't tell you how amazing it was to celebrate with my wife when I passed. Like, hey, I did it.
mm.
And I did it on my first try, which I was shocked because there wasn't study material really. It was this huge book and no flashcards, nothing. And I honestly was ready to fail just so I got to visualize it and see, get a little taste of how the test is set
Mhm.
up. But I would definitely put that up there in my career highlights, was being able to achieve that.
You know, I've never even asked people what on the CPRP, can you give CPRE, what is the I don't know, general knowledge requirements, or what is it like to try to get that degree or to get that certification?
Yeah, I mean, it's very high level, parks, recreation, programming, special events, HR, finance, bonds. I mean, it literally hits on everything that.
Mm,
Luckily for me, I had experience with in other cities, so it wasn't like fresh off the boat kind of thing.
mhm,
But it it was a lot, and it's really funny because I had to, when you work for smaller cities, well, I think for anything, not everything works for one that works for another.
mm,
That's extremely hard for a test because even though I disagree that this is the best method, I have to put that down for the test. So that was, I think, my struggle, specifically with smaller cities versus larger cities. That's a disconnect. Is what works for you doesn't always work for them.
mm. And so what do you recommend to people maybe trying to follow in your footsteps? You know, just go for it, or is it, or now has any of the rules even updated even more, or pretty much still the same? Um, 10 years of a management position.
As far as I'm aware, they're the same because that had been the first change. I mean, CPRE hasn't been around for forever. I'm actually happy. I think I told you in our pre-show talk. I'm 931, so I'm right before it becomes 1,000. I thought that was really cool
Ah,
because if you get the CPR P, it's like huge number.
yeah.
So I
Wait, are
mean,
you saying there's only nine of people with their CPRE, there's only 931?
no, there's more than at that point in time, that was
No.
the certification number.
I wonder
Um,
how many there are now. Any idea?
no, I know that I think I'm not the only one that struggled with the parameters for certification
Mhm,
because it seems like everyone executive level, I keep seeing posts that, hey, we're, I'm taking my test or I just got it. So it's nice to see that people are pushing themselves throughout the organization as a whole
mhm,
to continue that. Because it's easy to stick in your area. I mean, I know a lot of people, they have a degree, so they say, my focus is this, but it really helps. And what I would encourage for anyone who wants to push themselves is, I can guarantee you I wouldn't be able to have passed the certification if I hadn't already carried my AFO, the aquatic facility operator license, my
mhm.
certified playground inspector, things like that, because it's all about building up to that knowledge base.
And is this the highest certification you can get in Parks and Recreation?
Yes.
Yeah. And so the one right below that, that was the certified Parks and Rec, or what, professional?
Professional.
Professional, and then this one you have is just executive at the end.
Yes, sir.
And when did you receive that?
The end of 2023.
Yeah, so and if you were 931, so you're saying at that point, there were 931 people that had gotten that certification, and so that's I mean, maybe it's above 1,000, but probably not much above 1,000,
I I would
imagine.
say I could definitely see it being a couple hundred more,
Right.
just because it seems like I think sort of a floodgate. Because I remember it was very rare I met someone with a CPRE.
Mm,
Enough where it was like, oh, you went to a conference. Oh my gosh, you have a CPRE. How did you do that? And I'm like, it's just a sort of a weird thing. I never had a college degree, so it's a different kind of conversation.
mhm.
But now I'm seeing it more regularly,
Yeah.
and
So
that
maybe 1,200 people nationwide, and then I wonder how many of them are retired, so you may still discounting retired, people with that certification, you may be talking about 700 800 people in active. Um, I didn't realize that was so rare. That's,
yeah.
that's good to highlight now. Okay, so let's talk more about, what are your thoughts around traps or around, NRPA or around conventions and stuff? Tell me how that's impacted your life there.
Yeah, so I went to I've been pretty consistent on going to NRPA over the years. I've really liked it because I get to have those kind of connections with other people outside of the state. But then also there was a lot of um, exposure to trainings that are a little bit untraditional. Plus, it's a nice little way to get away and if I'm in town, there's no way I'm going to be able to do a virtual conference with the fires you have to put out.
Right.
But I really enjoyed it, but I started realizing like this is a lot of this stuff is really repetitive. I did go also too for the connections with the vendors because I'm weird. I actually do keep the paperwork for all the what the vendors have given me because it'll come up in my head like, oh, an LED light. Oh, I need to go look at this guy. Or
Mm,
there's specials going on. So it does happen. I also try to save my budget. Well, I mean, since it's in October, I always try to make sure to have budget identified for some improvements, and then I leverage that with the deals and whatnot. But
mm,
so I did notice that there was not really any exposure to park maintenance. A lot of the stuff was high level, but then also it was really focused on recreation.
mhm,
And I I have considered in the past trying to do some trainings to expose people because I think it's just better to understand, field maintenance. I mean, I hear recreational comments all the time. Well, why can't you just turn the field around and use it again? Well, you don't understand. If you overuse a field, you can cripple it
mm,
and you can there's a lot of maintenance that goes into it. You can't just extend a season. A lot of people put down winter rye. You can't be on the grass for 2 months,
mhm,
and so there's a lot of issues there. And I think it's just better for us to understand as an organization what our staff does and what is important to them, because it's easy for me to go down this rabbit hole where I just focus on what I think is important instead of what they need.
mm,
So this year was actually my first year going back to traps a few months ago, in almost 7 years. And I really wanted to get involved. And, I made a lot of connections there. And I really want to push for the maintenance side because I don't think there is. Um, a lot of understanding on the career development that someone in maintenance can have and sort of have something very similar to the experience that I had where, hey, get this certification and then go from there. Because I met a few guys that I worked with or worked under me at a previous city, and they didn't even know that there was a thing called a CPRP.
mm,
And I told them, yeah, talk to your director about it. It's something great to have. If you're wanting to move up, it helps. Um, So I think, that's what I've been trying to do lately is get involved and try to help provide that experience level if there's a need.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to have your help build the maintenance show. We've got a few of us similar to yourself. Shout out to Garrett. He's also over there in, I think around Houston area. I'm sorry, he's in Dallas area as well. But we're trying to put together a maintenance show Monday through Thursday, because there's just so little content when it comes around. Even at now, I do see what do they call it, maintenance rodeo at
Mhm.
traps. And so they have some little competitions and stuff, but I mean, when you look at the breakouts, there's just so little about maintenance, park maintenance and stuff. And so I'd love to create a channel just for them. And we're starting this in the next couple of weeks. So I'm kind of holding my own feet to the fire. But I'd love to have your help or input on that. And if you or anybody listening knows any specialists or people that were really excellent at irrigation or field maintenance or golf course maintenance or even master electricians or plumbers or anything else, what are some of the other areas when it comes? Let's talk about park maintenance. What are some of the skills that you need to maintain parks or maintain facilities too?
Um, you really need to be able to not put on the blinders and
Mm,
open it up. Um, that even with my staff currently, they jump on a mower, they jump on a weed eater, and they focus, and they don't miss they miss the things that we shouldn't.
mm,
And in park maintenance, we're never going to prevent the calls for people coming in. I mean, nothing will ever be perfect, but we can do everything we can to make sure that people have the best experience possible. I've always pushed when my guys to go to parks. It doesn't matter if the park was just cleaned. If you see something, do something about it.
mm,
And in maintenance, it's very easy for us to focus on our specific area and miss the broader picture. And I think overall, the more we broaden ourselves, with smaller cities, you really have to grow the department strategically, because you can't just say I need more people, because every department needs more people.
mm,
But at my previous city, I actually absorbed a department, and my title there was community services director, but it was strategic because I needed help, and the department I was helping didn't have really a leader at that point in time. It was the streets department. And I said, well, hey, we'll help you on days you need help, and you help us on ours. And it was like huge, because we
right.
finally were able to develop, and it's just thinking outside the box. I can't tell you how many times the first reaction is, why don't we contract it out?
Mm,
Because yeah, you can pay a contractor to do it for less, but then when that contract ends, what are they doing for the rest of the time? And you
mm.
have to be able to show productivity, and that's for department growth. It really focuses on that.
Yeah, and really the park system is just a great classroom to learn to new skills. And so, yeah, you can contract stuff out, but then you're missing out on the opportunity to, coach up your staff. It's just like a big. I remember I used to run a massive service company. We had 60 electricians and journeymen and stuff, and it was nonstop classroom. Every day was learning experience because we were in service. So it was always something broke, go figure out why it broke and how to fix it kind of stuff. And so you're learning something every day, and to kind of run away from those opportunities, really, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot because it really is an opportunity to learn how to improve. So I kind of like when park systems kind of keep it in house and train up their staff and end up with a more qualified staff. Um, any thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be where I was if I didn't have that experience. I'm good with my budget. I'm good with numbers due to the fact that I know I can't just make more money.
Mhm.
So recently, they hired summer helps to mow or to weed eat during the summer. And when I came in, we had a major issue with staffing, consistency, and everything like that. So after some time, I met with my
Mm.
superintendent, and I asked him, I was like, hey, I think there's something else we could do that would be beneficial for not just now, but for the full year. And so we reallocated that to full-time positions. And then we implemented a chemical spraying um, practice that, hey, we have to set aside this guy for this amount of time so that he can spray the fence lines, and then you're not going to have to weed eat it anymore. And so then you save on that man hours, and then you can also be doing. You're not cutting a position, but now you can do things you really need to be doing. And then also I mean, I want to invest in my staff. I want you to be happy. I want you to enjoy yourself. If I can provide you more money, you need to be able to do things. And that's what I always push for. Is it's easy to say, let's just get a contractor to do it. Perfect example was a sports court that we recently did. Per sports court, I want to say the estimate was about 15,000 to resurface.
Mhm.
We paid $6,000, got the material, and my staff did it themselves. And we're going to be able to do 3 courts for the half the price of one.
Yeah.
And I will say that it also, it's a change, and I'm investing in them and giving them something different to do than mowing or cleaning the parks. And it's interesting because it's not easy, but it's an investment. And in my previous city, my supervisor was like, hey, if you want to do this instead of hiring a contractor, learn it. As long as it's not something that's, dangerous, do it.
Yeah.
And I really believe in that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that. This is actually how um, that's how I got into Parks and Rec. I was a master electrician that could not find a good explosive-proof fixture, so I went and designed it myself and manufactured it. That eventually led me to a ball field light. And the same thing, I had cities saying, we can't afford to put a whole brand new system. We're just trying to swap out those old fixtures for new LED lights with a quality fixture. So I said, well, I can engineer you one. And I did. And that's just like you. They said we didn't have $250,000 to upgrade one little neighborhood baseball field. If we could just have the fixtures, and that's what I would do. I would hand their maintenance guys and really, to take down an old fixture and put one up, you rent a lift, you swap out 3 wires, and you're done for the next 30 years. That's what some of these smaller park systems needed. And so that was kind of the small niche. And actually, it turns out after retirement, that's the one fixture I'm using to fund this entire show.
That's awesome.
So shout out to all of my clients that made the leap over and are still buying from me to support the show. I really appreciate that. The show couldn't be happening without you guys pitching in that way. Um, Man, I can't believe it's already been an hour. Any closing remarks? And I'm definitely going to ask you to continue to help us out with this Parks and Rec maintenance show, which will be coming up. It sounds like you have a ton of experience in that arena.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you what you're doing. I've listened to a lot of the shows, and I think it's funny because months back, I thought the exact same thing. There's not really a show that really is for Parks and Rec. You type in Parks and Rec, and of course it's a TV show,
Yeah.
and I know there's some guys in Round Rock that are doing some good works, but a
Yes.
consistent show. And I think what you're doing is awesome. There's a lot of things we need to get out. I, just met with the school district a little bit ago, and talking about how I can insert myself and let people know, because we are hiring 12 lifeguards in the next few months, and they don't even know that's something that they can continue all the way through college and take with them, and it's the first step. So I would be honored to join the show and talk about maintenance, talk about some of the trigger words that people hear in Parks and Rec that sort of scare them, like budget and city council and all these things, and really bring some normalcy to it. And if I can do it, others can do it. And I will tell you, there is no other job that I would rather work double the time for than for Parks and Rec. Uh,
Yeah. Love it. Love that story. And I love that you're not afraid to look at the finances. I think what we're going to end up doing is our Friday 11 o'clock show is going to be just on finance. We're going to call it Financial Fridays. And then right after that show, we'll do YPN. So that's going to be our Friday segments. But Monday through Thursday, it's going to be maintenance at 11, leadership at 12, which is what we're doing right now. Um, but you're right. That financial piece is so critical and often something I see this industry avoid like the plague. But you're not alone. I don't know. I know many entrepreneurs that avoid their spreadsheets and their accountants and their bookkeepers like the plague. But you really have to, unless you want your ship to sink. You gotta govern by those numbers and let the data guide your decisions. Well, thank you so much, Devin, for coming on to the show. I really appreciate it, and look forward to having you as a guest more frequently, especially on the maintenance show. And congratulations on getting your CPRE and becoming one of the elite executives. I know that took a lot of hard work, man. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And anytime you need me, I'm here.
All right, man. Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right. What a great story with Devin. Looking forward to having him on the show as a regular. Just, man, you see these guys that just, love how he said you have, if there's ever an industry that you don't mind working those extra hours for, it's this industry. And at the same time, he is looking at it, at the finances. He's allowing his team to, have their input. He's listening first. You just got such good leaders inside of Parks and Rec. I can't wait to continue with these couple of new shows, these new additions. Tomorrow is our first shot at YPN. And so we've got a nice little crew showing up. It's going to be a panel. I think there's like 6 of us going to be on stage, and we're going to just start cooking, and we're going to see what happens. So it's going to be a success if we can show up and go live and there's multiple people on screen. If we just witness a train wreck, okay, I still call it a success because it's just the first show. So we set the bar so low you can trip on it. And then we're going to figure out what the show is going to be about, what really serves the YPN community, how can we make it better, how many guests do we want on at the same time, what are the topics. Please, if you're in YPN or this is your that kind of fits your demographic, attend the show, go into the comment section either on X or Facebook, leave a comment of what you want to see the direction of that show go. We really don't have any direction. We're going into it with an open mind, and we'd rather create the content the community wants. The last thing we want to do is create useless content for 2 months and then realize, oh, nobody found it useful or interesting. And so that's why we're just kind of starting the show, and then we're going to let the creative process unfold in front of us. Now, in addition to that, I also want to start. Just let my pinwheel of death keep swirling. Okay, I think I'm back. Shout out to Jamie Sabak. She has really raised some red flags in the industry around knowing your finances, around sustainability, financial sustainability. And I want to make this a focus of the show because it's such an important piece that no matter what kind of great work Parks and Rec does, if we end up in bankruptcy, what good did we all do if we can't meet payroll, right? So understanding your finances is literally the lifeblood of your park system. You have to keep the money rolling in. You can't let deferred maintenance pile up to the point to where your system's collapsing. So we want to start highlighting those parks that have recovered from bankruptcy, maybe even the ones that have gone into bankruptcy, and do a good in-depth study of what happened. And maybe you can throw up some red flags, and other people might identify with that red flag and say, hey, that red flag's going on right now in my city. What can we do? And a lot of times we can head off these disasters and train wrecks before they get too bad by learning how to say no, learning how to be more financially responsible, learning how to do better cost recovery, maybe even sell a piece of land that we just really don't have the bandwidth to develop. Who knows? But we're going to make a show, Financial Fridays. It's coming. I'm not going to set a date just yet because we got YPN launching tomorrow. We've got, I'll go ahead and claim it right now. 2 weeks from now, we are going live with the maintenance show. I've got a lot of stuff already set up, got a lot of great people that are helping me out. So I think we have what it takes to just go live on at 11, maybe not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, and really just start creating content for that community, that part of Parks and Recreation. Um, and that's going to be an 11 a.m. show Eastern, Monday through Thursday, and then 11 a.m. Fridays. We'll start our Financial Fridays. Tomorrow is 12 noon every Friday, YPN. We're going to figure out what that looks like starting tomorrow. So tune in. And then, of course, this is what we're calling kind of I don't know, I really haven't titled it. Maybe type in the suggestions what y'all want it to be. Is this a leadership series? Is this, yeah, maybe testimonials? I don't know. We'll come up with a cool title for it. But we're looking at what can we call where we're interviewing the directors, the assistant directors, the superintendents, that kind of stuff. People that have gotten to leadership, and even retired people that have come into this industry and have a lot to give. Maybe even they've moved into a consulting role, kind of like Jamie has. Okay, so that's what we got going on. Please consider buying this guy right here. As I was telling Devin, I engineered this for communities that just want to do some of the work themselves. They have a maintenance electrician on staff. He's more than qualified to swap out a fixture. This fixture basically bolts and slips right on top of where the old metal halide is. So instead of buying, $400, $500, $600 worth of bulb and ballast parts, and you're going to be right back at that fixture maintaining it because those bulbs only last a couple of years. Consider buying one of these guys for around $850 and be done. Practically for all eternity. This light has a patented cooling system. If you can keep these suckers cool, they last forever. Outside of a bullet beam, which we have had some bullet holes shot in ours in some of the sketchier neighborhoods. But aside from that, this sucker's going to last you forever. LED technology has come such a long way, and we use mean whale drivers, which is world class. You cannot get better drivers than mean whale. You can totally submerge them in water. They're not going to flinch unless it's some factory defect, and I will send you a brand new one just to maintain our reputation of manufacturing high quality fixtures. We send you the fixtures. You hire your local electrician, or your maintenance staff is more than qualified to go up on a lift you rented from some rental store and swap out fixtures. You already have maintenance staff if you can swap out a fixture in an office building, you're qualified to do this. Make sure you're not scared of heights though, because some of these lights are 50, 60, 70 feet up in the air. And then you can relamp an entire baseball field for, $20,000, $30,000. And you have the labor and I did this thousands and thousands of fixtures. I assisted Parks and Rec departments, and that was actually all I did towards the back end of my career on this before I retired. And this little buddy I brought with me as a way to fund the daily Parks and Rec show. And he's doing a great job funding this show, where there's 4 of us now full-time on staff. We're coming up on our 100th episode. We've interviewed 90, close to 95 shows. I think this is the 95th show. And we're starting our 2nd show tomorrow, 3rd show probably the following week, and a 4th show on finances. So we'll have 4 shows, 2 hours of programming every day, 5 days a week. Not bad for a little light fixture. And great announcement coming. I think we're so close to inking our first sponsorship deal from a company I've worked with long ago called Outdoor Link. Shout out to David and Joseph and Craig. And I forget they have a guy in Texas, his name. I'm going to get him on there. And I interviewed Tasha. She's actually one of our guests on the show. So if you want to learn more about Outdoor Link, I'll tell you. Let me go ahead and pull that up, and I can tell you exactly what episode that is. Let's see. I want to say it was like maybe less than 10 episodes back that Tasha was on. She was episode, hold on, got to load more. But yeah, Yeah, she was episode 82. Tasha Mays. She's over in Huntsville. She is the um over all their marketing and sales and basically just getting the word out. And she's got a nice little team up there. What a great company that was. So, I mean, even if we don't end up doing a deal with them, you should still use them because they are number one, it's an American company. They'll do everything in house. You can go take a tour of their facilities. They have just solid engineering, and that's my background. And my concern was a lot of engineering is just third partied out, and that's it's hard to do iterations, improving your product constantly if someone else is doing your engineering and fixing the breaks. Also, their company has been doing this. They have 80,000 of these controllers out in the wind, the winter, the drought, the humidity, you name it. You're going to face every kind of problem you shake a stick at when you've got 80 things that could break out there, 80,000 things that could break out there. And so when you work with Outdoor Link, you're getting all of that wisdom, and you're not buying their first. This is, I think, like the seventh time that they've improved upon this thing to where now it's just dialed in to just work. And it's so simple. I think it's around like a little over $900, not under $1,000. And you can control 4 baseball fields uh, on your phone on a super simple, great user interface. The user interface is when you click the app on your phone, how easy is it to use? Do you need to be some kind of product specialist or some coder? No, it's super simple. You hook it up to your baseball fields, and any coach or any director from his beach chair on vacation can say, "Oh, the lights are left on." Boom, they're off. It's really that simple. And they don't work off of Wi-Fi. They actually bring in their own cell signal so that they're not depending on your local Wi-Fi of the park to be working. And plus, that's kind of a security issue. So, great company. They're going to come on as a sponsor. I'm about 95% sure. We had a great talk with them. I went and visited their facility, met their owner. Great family business. I would like no more. I would like nothing better than to see this company do well in this industry. And they've been actually here for a while, but they're really making a push last year. And I met them at the Louisiana convention and again at the Alabama state convention, and we just hit it off. And I guess it was just meant to be because now it looks like they're going to help me put on this show. They're going to come on as a major sponsor, and with that, I'll be able to hire another graphics designer because we're putting on a whole nother 5 shows, and I'm wearing these guys out. They're working so hard. Thank you so much, Chris and Kathleen. We're going to hire one more person to help y'all produce content and make those intros and do the edits and then post everything across all the platforms. It really is a lot of work to put on a show like this and to build a media company, but we're having a blast doing it, and we know we're doing good. We get a lot of great feedback from you guys. So that kind of that kind of keeps that's kind of the fuel in our tank. So really appreciate it. Really appreciate Tanya coming on as a lead sponsor for this show monthly. And that really helps us just to create more and more content. So if you can, and if you're looking to switch anything, not just a ball field, you can switch doors. You can imagine if you want something turned on or turned off anywhere in your entire. It just could be like a sewer treatment plant or some of these lift stations or whatever. Think about anything inside the whole city. You can now do from your phone. And you can schedule it. And there's so much more. I'm going to learn more about it so that I can represent their company a little bit better since they're sponsoring us. Now I know it can turn on our LED lights and your ball field stuff because that's how I met them. But anyway, glad to have them on board. Looking forward to interviewing David, who is one of their lead reps and formerly a director for decades in Florida, along with Joseph. I'm going to do an interview with each of them, mainly focusing on them and their career as directors, but then also how they transitioned, which is so common for directors to retire and transition into the private sector that serves this industry. So 2 great reps. I've already seen Tasha come on here. So yeah, looking forward to working with them. Okay, tomorrow's our day. YPN, show up for the train wreck. We don't know what it's going to be like. I promise I'll be there, and I promise I'll press go live. And at least me, Molly, Gabby, there's a few others that are coming. I hope Skylar can make it. Shoot, I think I might have invited 6 people, so it ought to be a blast to knock it out the park towards the end of the week, and then we're going to keep improving upon it. So, all right, guys, that'll be it for the day. This is Craig LeBlanc, the Doorman, your host of the daily Parks and Rec show, Monday through Friday, 12 noon Eastern. I will see y'all here tomorrow. Love you guys. Y'all have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.